ships. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And who were the owners of these slave ships? Who were the biggest slavers in the 16th century? The Ashkenazi were the biggest slavers in the 16th and 17th century, going into the 18th century. You see, Ashkenazi slaving was huge. This is from, I have to be careful when I say this, so my sources, it's always best to go with Jewish sources, right? Because you just trod on a bunch of toes. So we'll go with the Jewish sources. There's a ton of sources out there, but I'll stick with the Jewish ones because that's just safer. The Jewish scholar Jonathan Shorshak says this: Jewish merchants routinely possessed enormous numbers of slaves temporarily before selling them off. If a slave auction fell on a Jewish festival, it was postponed due to lack of buyers and sellers. The Jews of Suriname gave their slave plantations Hebrew names such as Machanaim, Nachamu, and Goshen. Rabbi Herbert Bloom adds that the slave trade was one of the most important Jewish activities. In 1694, Jews owned 9,000 African Shemites. Jewish slaving is in fact confirmed by the Jewish Encyclopedia. So in the days that we live, there's nothing more important than this Melchizedek message to the true Shemites. Because this Melchizedek message of the true Shemites is the solution. It is the solution to the Palestinian problem. It is the solution to the Black Lives Matter that is being fomented by the synagogue of Satan. It is the solution to racial tensions, segregation that is all part of the synagogue of Satan's plot for Yahweh's people to fight amongst themselves based upon the color of our skin. That is ridiculous. But that is what they want so that we keep our minds off of them as the true slavers of Yahweh's people. When we all realize who's behind this racial and political fermentation, the synagogue of Satan, and when we join the priesthood together as Joseph's coat, we're victorious. Then we're victorious over the New World Order slavers, their Luciferic, Levitical perversion. You see, they're obsessed with blood. They're obsessed with their own blood, and they're obsessed with your blood. But they're not obsessed with Yahusha's blood.
Right, enti abusia video no anofa e dia share asem na ye kanimu ekena no na utie ana wo hwe ye video menu ehwe nyina na chese jiwfo no we be se manyenye nyina ifrofie nipa na edeyi mo san be ka so fa engineer be no fa ntomobo ofa obeba na mfa sa message ntwam ye fani kakra o say I'm sure President Paul Kagame and Magufuli the late had been watching this program and learning from it. That is why they were able to transform their countries. As for Ghana, prosper the Fracotiana by. Apa, Yantoso, Nasamo.
And he at it. Judaism,
yes.
You for any money in every. Afina Abetua, Jerusalem.
Oh, okay. Okay. Of I ever tried Jerusalem, the answer the tell Yankaji, you get the phone card. Emra. I was because I can say wake up Africa senior for Poku Danqua and attending canon. Na Ninara and say, Ayana, a bimwaka and a decordano, Usan one, the Acaninano, a Segueta Fracture, Uncle who did it, Anna or more a year, also Rufidi or Damufua, until Ode or Hobona, tell a Segueta Fracture or fast for one on Corocotocro. En kasro ewa dan ebo eso de biara da busia meka o se memenda 24th ɛyɛ kitansa bosumi mu yare de toso duonu nan ye nyina ye ba ɛyɛ kumase of apoku dankwa owura Israel brother Ediko odame mituato ana ye ba maka me so abeto me na gina junction na make sure direction mo akọ ɛyɛ closer building ni mo no na so akọ akotie encheche papa ni bi nemo wabusua kai se oba yenka se covid no sense wiem nti protocols ni nyina no be observed nti kai se obefa nose mask no ba na show make sure kwan no unhye bia mesan ha na me fa bi megina so meton me ye business so me tro kwan nti oba na wabo nose mask fe na wanya sanitizer bia kuta ti brano no na dia fefa nsem withdraw so our temperature say check so ade be ho sabi bia no e be konka nti mo ba mo hye no so emfa emaye over to so maye
me da se ye wie Jew for nsem afi asaba Jerusalem say ye kan say entokwa edikan no king of the south ene be dikan to twedikane na twedikane no obeto no ene be me aba be yamo na ni nyina no aye safo bi a Vatican di bebie pu oti wada de ope Jerusalem abade na ode entokwa we aba be for me na ma defeat you ete se wa ma me kwan ameba
yes
ye kan eno na otwe mi etwemu na se na otwe etwemu ena ekoba ase wo mani eda so no emfiri ho 1948 ena the modern state of Israel omo proclaim here 14th May 1948 1949 ena Pope Pius the 12th ocho letter bi so omo encyclical no dey come United Nations said there be Jerusalem mumia respecting resolution 181 no enu be ya on the international status yampne emenkodi obi ansem entino mumia mfanko to ni enhwe ni so ya letter no ha o be refresh your mind
Confrontation letter na
oh we dey
na letters na hunya ne
oh ya say aye history ndine wo o
hwe nko ade abehu
and you throw a letter no do be kan abesia no san kan we to abesia
okay United Nations Conciliation Commission for Palestine Committee on Jerusalem also on Good Friday 15th April 1949 His Holiness Pius the 12th addressed to all archbishops and bishops of the Catholic world an encyclical letter on subject of the holy places of Palestine. Full text is reproduced below for the information of the Committee on Jerusalem. The Passion of our Redeemer vividly recorded to us during these days of Holy Week makes the minds of Christians turn with the deepest reverence to that land which divine providence willed to be the cherished home country of the Word incarnate, and in which Christ Jesus lived his earthly life, shed his blood, and died. During this past year, we have urged you insistently, venerable brethren, in successive letters that all should join in public prayer to implore the cessation of the conflict which has brought destruction and death to that land, and the settlement of the dispute on principles of justice which, while fully safeguarding the freedom of Catholics, would at the same time provide guarantees for the safety of those most holy places. And now that the fighting is over, or at least has been brought to a halt by the recent truce, we offer our most sincere and heartfelt thanks to God and voice our emphatic approval of the effort of those whose noble endeavor has contributed to the re-establishment of peace. Yeah, I want to see.
In the letter to Pius the 12th,
Yes.
Otrokoma UN say, Wama declare modern state of Israel. The name of Munkai resolution 181 no say it's a set Jerusalem about on the international status.
Yes.
Sanya enko di esumbia ansem. ɛwɔ hɔ deɛ
no obi adia
yɛn Vatican na ɛbɛhwɛ so ɛbɛhwɛ so ama obiara nti ɛnsɛ sɛ kɔdi Palestinians na anaasɛ Israelis ne nsɛm yɛn yɛbɛhwɛ so ama wɔn saa nso na aba book wei mu a The Middle East in Prophecy by Richard F. Amis ɔno nso no the nature
okay. I'll say the gap between the two sides' views is wide and deep. What solutions has the international community proposed? In 1980, when Israel called Jerusalem its united and eternal capital, the Vatican strongly objected. Was it in 1980? When Israel called Jerusalem its united and eternal capital, the Vatican strongly objected. No, they can't find home. In 1984, Pope John Paul II wrote an apostolic letter, Redemptoris Anno, calling for Jerusalem to have a special internationally guaranteed status. In 1975, U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger had made a similar proposal that Jerusalem become an international city with the control of holy places and the religious administration being given to the Pope. Pope John Paul II spoke to the new Jordanian ambassador to the Vatican on May 28, 1998. Reuters reported his comment, and I quote, "The long history of the city of Jerusalem, fraught with tribulations, will reach a new threshold in the year 2000, with the dawn of the third millennium of Christianity. It is my fervent hope that this may lead to a formal recognition with international guarantees of the unique and sacred identity of the holy city." Unquote.
Yeah.
Ofa.
Graphic 24th July 2000. Pope John Paul esabe kan biem say opese ma Jerusalem special status. Enuni. Mark.
Okay. Pope wants special status for Jerusalem. Jerusalem must granted a special status with international safeguards. Pope John Paul II said yesterday as 24th July 2000. That's a 15 can say 21 years in here. Graphic and the buy. Okay. Jerusalem must be granted a special status with international safeguards. Pope John Paul II said yesterday as the Middle East Peace Summit between the Palestinians and Israelis entered its 13th day. And I quote, "I invite the two sides not to forget the importance of the spiritual dimension of Jerusalem with its holy site and the presence of all three monotheistic religions." He told thousands of pilgrims outside his summer residence south of Rome. The status of Jerusalem is one of the major sticking points in peace talks between the Israelites and Palestinians at the Camp David presidential retreat in Maryland. The Holy See still thinks that only a special status with international safeguards can effectively preserve the most sacred part of the holy city and guarantee religious freedom for all the faithful in the region and the world, who see Jerusalem as a crossroad of peace and unity. The pontiff said following morning prayers, and I quote, "I want to personally encourage by prayer the Camp David negotiations, which aren't easy, and I invite the leaders to pursue their effort, hoping that they will continue to be inspired by a sincere desire to respect right and justice for all, and the establishment of a just and lasting peace," the Pope said. For several years, the Vatican has demanded that the future status of Jerusalem include international guarantees preserving the sacred nature of the city.
And I'm say Vatican, the near pass open Jerusalem.
Yes.
In the Africa, say any sadia. Say mitimitu anamo na me Israel timi establish diplomatic relations ebia eno beboa
yes
na no ekoba as a graphic dey buy
as a person bi enso de jade
7th December 1990 and a graphic dey buy say no Vatican recognition.
Okay.
Jew for delegation bi ko hu Vatican no omo pa Chelsea enti wonni antum say e o man adan na wo ye say eni nema enti ni nyina aka ho no consider no say okay eni sa de a ye be ye na emom your fundamental agreement bi a
yes
ye de beto to akwam so utimi di so de a ebeboa ye
okay
na che say yetimi akọ na ansa no Obekan no Vatican recognition. Now we are pass out by Israel calls for recognition.
Okay.
Okay, can we are?
And then 7th December 1990. Graphic and the buyer. No Vatican recognition. A Jewish delegation last Wednesday said it had asked the Vatican to recognize the state of Israel. The request was made at a meeting between representatives of international Jewry and the Roman Catholic Church. A spokesman for the delegation said in Vatican, the Vatican does not have diplomatic relations with Israel, although it does recognize the existence of the state. Vatican sources said the church was reluctant to have diplomatic ties with Israel, while the status of Jerusalem and of the Palestinians in the occupied territories was in dispute. The meeting was attended by 12 rabbis, 3 cardinals, and 35 other experts on Jewish-Christian relations. The head of the Jewish delegation, U.S. lawyer Simon D. Rich, was expected to ask Pope John Paul II during an audience yesterday to recognize Israel. The spokesman for the Jewish delegation, Gunther Lawrence, said, and only no Vatican recognition. Israel calls for recognition. The Vatican should recognize, on the 14th February 1991, to 1990. And away 91 Ghanaian Times the day they make a buyer. I said the Vatican should recognize Israel after 43 years without diplomatic relation. Prime Minister Yeshak Shamir said here yesterday. I think that it is time for the Pope to make this little step and to recognize the state of Israel. He told the World Jewish Congress. Maybe someone will be recognized. The Vatican has never, since the creation of the Jewish state in 1948, recognized the country, which includes within its borders the site where Christ lived and preached. Despite the lack of official ties, the Vatican, which has called for a Palestinian homeland, has delegate in Jerusalem and Israel diplomat at the Rome embassy in Accra. Embassy is accredited with the Vatican. Okay, despite the lack of official ties, the Vatican, which has called for a Palestinian homeland, has a delegate in Jerusalem and Israel diplomat at the Rome embassy is accredited with the Vatican.
Edi when we buy, and also some person who person recognize him there. And your name may be a honour, Esamuka. Ebini say, 67 Ubo Palestinians, SIG East Jerusalem. Nam de Beckham, mo West Jerusalem, no one can say, and any more unified capital city, eternity. Mukreya, so most can say. Properties be or no more. What is na more building settlements in occupied lands. When we know a big concern, my teacher Jerusalem no a person yet under international status. Into a more the kind a fundamental agreement. When I ask me recognize you, me say me recognize you. Me say me raising me issues way.
Yes.
Me person consider.
Yes.
Omo assign fundamental agreement, you know. But ebesine Israeli Parliament, Knesset,
yes.
omo ratify.
Okay.